Welcome to Wiseguy Confidential, coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Today's edition, we're going to talk about Americans under the age of 35 and their lack of participation. Forgive me, a little technical difficulty. Their lack of participation in voting. As of the last the primaries, under 14% of all eligible voters in the United States under the age of 35 participated. That would be Generation Z and the millennials. For many years, and many of you know, I've been working with in empowerment, in training and teaching, coaching, mentoring young people in hopes that we'd have a better future. We have a future of a younger generation of leaders that were more involved, that were not as racist and not as divisive and not as driven by ethnicity or religion or culture. And I've always had very high hopes that that would come to pass in these years. But as it turns out, voters and people in the United States under the age of 35 like to be bullied, like to be pushed around, like to be dictated to, don't have a problem with the tyrant running the federal government, don't have a problem paying taxes and not having any representation in our government, or paying taxes and not having any say in who is representing them at any level of government. People under 35 are probably the most underrepresented of any demographic in our country, regardless of what their ethnicity is. And that can go on every level of government representation, and worst of all, in the Supreme Court of the United States. But apparently, I was wrong. All these years I thought that there was going to be these real go-getters that were going to come and take the world by storm. Evidently, the protests and all the big talk of the last several months, it ends when it comes down to showing up to vote or just dropping off your ballot. In some states, it's all you need to do is fill out your ballot and drop it off. Imagine, approximately 85% of people who could vote, which is numbers close to upwards of 70 million, somewhere in that ballpark, choose not to vote and have no regard, are completely apathetic about voting. And what I hear people say is that it doesn't matter, their vote doesn't count, it's all the same. They're completely disengaged, dispassionate about our government and about voting, and they've been led to believe that their vote and their voice doesn't matter. But the thing that's ironic is because our system of governance requires laws. We're a nation of laws, and things get done at the ballot box. Legislation and policy get affected through voting and participation. Even doing your census, many people didn't participate in the census. So it's ironic that the same people who think showing up to protest and riot that's going to move policy, when factually that has nothing to do with changing policy. Nor should we want it to have anything to do with changing policy. The people with the bigger crowd and the louder voices should not dictate the direction of our government. For that matter, Hitler had bigger crowds than anybody in the United States. Having big crowds does not equate to righteousness or good leadership. So thinking, well, we had big demonstrations and we rioted and we looted and we burned, that doesn't mean a damn thing. Again, nor should we want it to mean anything, because right now you have people on the other side of the aisle, you have the Trumpsters that are threatening people, running people off the road, intimidating people with their rifles and their handguns. All those things that are being done. If that's the way you want to run a government and say whoever has the biggest crowds, they're the ones who are going to rule, well, we're in big trouble, because guess what? The minority people don't have the numbers to overpower those larger crowds. That's just the reality of, if you're going to go by numbers, it comes down to who's going to show up to vote. And if we're going to have this kind of piss poor participation that we see, well, get ready for another 4 years of this nightmare. Get ready to accept that we're going to be stuck in this pandemic for a long, long time. Now, I understand that people get frustrated and they're disengaged because they feel like, nothing changes. This country was founded by some very evil people. People who were wealthier, more educated, and white. And those people set up this country in such a way that only wealthy white men were able to vote. But even still, they did one better. They made the country rigid and difficult to move policy, to change laws. Very difficult. In some cases, you have to have 2/3 to change a law. So they knew what they were doing. Because of frustration, it causes frustration that leads to disengagement, and disengagement that leads to apathy. You have over 90% disapproval, or rather, you have only 12% of approval of our Congress. It has been that way for years, and yet you have over 90% re-election rate. So let's go back to how the country was set up. The country was set up to frustrate the hell out of the common people, aka hoi polloi, the plebes, as it were. It was set up intentionally to make people frustrated, so you just give up the power. When you don't participate, you are giving up your power. And in particular, for some reason, these young people that have such loud voices and have so many opinions and sitting around in a coffee shop, they know how to change the world, they know all the answers. Well, get in the game then. Stop talking and start doing. Show up to vote, participate. And I'm going to come at you strong because our hopes for a better future lie in your hands. And then I said in the last episode, it's not going to affect me that much. I'm on my way out. I'm already getting older. But those bad policies are going to affect you, your little brothers and sisters, and your children. And as I said, bad laws are hard to change. And many of these judges that are being appointed, like in the Supreme Court and the federal level, they're lifetime appointments. So those people are being they're being installed at a younger age so that they can stay there and they can govern, they can dictate the direction of this country for many years to come. So this is your opportunity to make your voice heard. So I want to reiterate, the framers, who were very evil people, who thought women were too stupid to vote and were property, thought that black people were less than human, and thought that indigenous people, my people, that they were savages, and slaughtered them. Those people set this government up with the intention of frustrating people, especially the working people, the 99%, so that they would disengage. So you're playing right into their hands when you don't participate. Good job. Well done. You're giving up your power. And remember what I always say, like not my original saying, but you know how the saying goes, talk is cheap. Talk is very cheap. Anyone can sit around Starbucks, or anyone could be online ranting and raving. Show up to vote. Get out there and vote. And empower others to vote. There's still time. In the West Coast, some places are still open right now. And you can vote tomorrow all the way up into late evening. Nothing has been decided. Everything is still in play. And if you have friends who say it doesn't matter, tell them why it doesn't matter. Share this video. Let them see that they are playing right into the hands of the wealthy, white, powerful, evil people who want to take away the power from women and minorities and LGBTQ and all those people who are marginalized and all those people who are being attacked for being different. Explain to them, this is their chance to do something and to make their voices heard. And for those of you who say that everyone's the same and there's no difference, that's completely false. All you need to do is look at this current administration, look at the people who are in his cabinet, look at who his staff are, look what they look like. Look at the Senate, look at the Congress, look at what they look like. They're almost all old white men that come from money and privilege. You see the Democratic Party, although it is not perfect, they look like America. It looks like everybody. Multicultural, diverse ethnicities. You have gay, you have lesbian, you have transgender, you have everybody under the sun. Everybody's welcome. And if you're saying you didn't get the candidate you wanted, it was Bernie or bust, well, guess what? Get over it. Because I've gotten over a lot of things. You gotta first get to the table and get a seat at the table in order to change things. You gotta be in it to participate, to change things. Okay? Women weren't even able to vote. Now women are courted and sought after for their vote. Black people weren't able to vote. Now they're a big voting bloc. They're very important. Minorities were not able to vote, but you participate, you make your voices heard, and you get a seat at the table, and then you affect change. So for the whole burn your bus thing for young people, like I said in the last episode, don't bother writing anything in. Nobody cares. This is not the time for it. The time for it now is we have an overwhelming victory tomorrow to make a change and get this do-nothing, inept, pernicious failure of a man out of the White House and take back our country. And it does matter. Because the platform is what matters, not the name of the party necessarily. So on one side, you have a party that is for post-secondary education that's affordable, is for healthcare for everyone, is for a livable minimum wage. The Democratic Party, we're for collective bargaining, being able to unionize, for workers' rights. When you look at the Voting Rights Act, when you look at the Civil Rights Act, those are Democratic initiatives. The end of segregation happened because of a Democrat. The Democratic Party believes in science. We believe in letting the experts be the experts. We believe in healthcare. We believe in doctors. We believe in climate change, and that we need to address climate change. If the person in office right now, the presidency continues, this country will be in the worst way. The hurricanes will get worse, forest fires will get worse, the sea levels will continue to rise. The endless summers that we're experiencing in the Southwest and other parts of the country are going to get worse. All across the board, our country is going to be in a worse situation. Women's rights are going to be taken away. Again, the minimum wage will not go up for the next 4 years. Student loans are going to continue to bury people and their dreams and aspirations for being homeowners. So again, although the Democratic Party is not perfect, it's the party of the people. It's not the party of the 1%. It's not the party who's worried about giving tax cuts to the 1%, to the billionaires, to the Walmarts and the Amazons of the world who are crushing small businesses. So those things do matter. So all the politicians and all the parties are not the same. I'll give you an example of somebody, a young person said to me, well, I didn't get my candidate. Well, I didn't get my candidate either. I was for Senator Amy Klobuchar. I wanted a woman president in the worst way. I believe we need a woman president in this country for a lot of reasons. And I'll address that in a future episode. But remember, guys, it's your future on the line. Your education, your opportunities, equality, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, minorities gain an equal share of the pie. And this episode is dedicated to all of our loved ones who have come before us. Today is Dia de los Muertos, and we're celebrating, which translates to those who don't habla, that's Day of the Dead. But don't say Day of the Dead because there's no such thing. This is a particularly Spanish expression, Dia de los Muertos. You wouldn't change like Jewish Rosh Hashanah and try to anglicize it. So let's have respect for Dia de los Muertos. And with that in mind, for all of our relatives who fought and died and weren't able to vote and were denied opportunities, or like my father and his siblings who were all in the military, walking around their uniforms and were denied service in places like Texas and Alabama, Mississippi, where it said no dogs, no blacks, no Mexicans, no Spanish. Let's vote for them. If you don't vote for anybody else, vote for them. Vote for your ancestors, vote for your elders who were treated like shit in this country. Take your rights seriously, guys. So, again, word for the day is vote. Vote, vote, vote. And again, I'm endorsing former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris for President and Vice President. And I've already enumerated the reasons why. So, in closing, as I always say, I'm not always going to tell you what you want to hear, but I'm always going to tell you the way it is. Stay safe, everyone. Be well. God bless. Get out there and vote. Avoid the COVID.